Well, here's news that's going to hurt. Feminist celebrity Roxane Gay has announced that she's pulling her personal podcast from Spotify. It's a principal move, she says. Gay is demanding that Spotify censor Joe Rogan, which so far the company has refused to do. In a long, pretty badly written New York Times piece this morning, Gay accuses Rogan of, quote, misleading people about their life or death health decisions. Because it turns out that Joe Rogan, a jiu-jitsu black belt, doesn't know anything about health. Roxane Gay, whose picture you're seeing on the screen now, of course, knows a lot about health. So the next time you've got a life or death health decision to make, give Roxane Gay a call. And by the way, if you've got any parenting questions, consult Joe Biden. All right, that was mean. We'll admit it. Generally trying to make fun of the way people look because it is low. And by the way, we struggle with Fig Newtons too, a lot, every day. And that's exactly why we don't use this show to harangue other people about their personal health decisions, because we've got some level of self-awareness. These people do not. Health tips from Roxane Gay? Child-rearing advice from Joe Biden? Come on, it's like a joke. So homicides are up to record levels in dozens of American cities. Theft is so rampant that scores are closing by the dozen. So Joe Biden decided it's finally time to acknowledge this is happening with a speech. So he visited New York today, a city that has seen a 40% jump in major crimes in just the past year during his presidency. According to Biden, the problem isn't Soros-backed district attorneys letting criminals out of prison or refusing to charge people for gun crimes. No, the problem is that people are exercising their constitutional rights.
We want to crack down on the flow of firearms used to commit violence. That includes taking on and shutting down rogue gun dealers. And it's about doing background checks, as well as outright selling, making sure that people who are not allowed to have a gun don't get the gun in the first place. And again, for any of the press listening, this doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment right. There's no violation of a Second Amendment right. We talk like there's no amendment that's absolute.
Right. So the problem is guns. Keep in mind, in New York City, Biden-endorsed politicians have stopped enforcing a lot of the gun laws. Stop and frisk, remember that? That was against the equity agenda, can't have that. So people with illegal guns are getting away. And by the way, Joe Biden's own son violated federal firearms laws. He broke gun laws, a felony, not prosecuted. But you can't have a gun in your home because no amendment is absolute. Right. Actually, that one is absolute. But according to Joe Biden, the real key here is hiring more social workers.
We need more social workers. We need more mental health workers. We need more people who, when you're called on these scenes and someone's about to jump off a roof, is not just someone standing there with a weapon. It's someone who also knows how to talk to people, talk them down. We can't expect you to do every single solitary thing that needs to be done to keep a community safe. It's time to fund community policing to protect and serve the community.
We're going to stop playing tape from that guy because it's getting depressing. But the bottom line is the laws aren't being enforced, and that's clearly the problem. We have good laws, just we don't use them. Alex Villanueva would know a lot about that. He's the sheriff of Los Angeles County, the biggest or one of the biggest counties in the country. He joins us tonight to respond to what we just heard. Sheriff, thanks so much for coming on. So is the problem in LA County that there aren't enough social workers?
I can tell you this, we have an abundance of social workers. What we have is a district attorney who refuses to enforce the laws that are already on the books. We got plenty of laws. We got laws about bad guys using guns to do bad things. They won't touch them.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm seeing in cities across the country, authorities refusing to enforce existing gun laws. So you're caught with an illegal gun, and nobody does anything to you about it. I wonder, does the president not know that or notice or care, or what is going on here exactly?
I don't know if the word is getting up to the federal level, but I mean, I appreciate the fact that he's now funding law enforcement and he's pushing against the defunding. That is great. However, they need to deliver that memo to my board of supervisors, who is still actively defunding the sheriff's department and then trying to say, oh, no, we're not. Yet I'm losing deputies by the hundreds. And now, come April 1st, I'm going to be missing 1,600 personnel that I should already have, and they're pretending like we're not being defunded.
Speaking of democracy, we hear a lot about democracy, which is, of course, a synonym for doing the will of voters. Are there a lot of voters, a majority of voters in LA County who want fewer sheriff's deputies or fewer police in LA?
I have not found them. I've been everywhere through LA County. I've done 85 town halls. I've spoken to tens of thousands of county residents. I've been on the trains. They're all begging for, we need to see more deputies on the streets. Where are they? And then my supervisors say, well, you're going to have to do with less. In fact, now I've learned that we've had to raise the overtime that each deputy has to work from 96 hours a month to 120 hours a month. That the cap on that ceiling has been raised, and they can work 30 days consecutively without a break because we don't have enough deputies.
Well, I mean, you can't do any job that many hours a week, that many days in a row, and be your best, right? I mean, who could do that?
No, you can't. That is a huge threat. Nobody can. And you're going to wind up with deputies that are going to pretty much crash on their way home just by sheer exhaustion, and they're going to fall asleep at the switch, and we can't let that happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to host a talk show 30 days in a row. Sheriff, thanks. I appreciate your coming on tonight for a reality check. Thank you.
You got it, Tucker.
Quick programming note. Our documentary unit makes Tucker Carlson Originals working on an episode about the breakdown, the total breakdown of law and order in LA County, and the George Soros-backed DA there who has caused all of this, Sheriff Villanueva, will be one of the featured interviews. He's turned out to be kind of a hero. Well, Canadian truckers are still in the capital city of Ottawa, pronounced originally as Ottawa, by the way, protesting against COVID lockdowns. Now, a similar convoy is forming, thank God, in the United States. It's heading to Washington, D.C. That's next. But first, Judge Janine Pirro and Lawrence Jones here for Final Exam. Straight ahead. Time now for Final Exam, where we mercilessly pit the news professionals against one another. Cage match, cockfight, to see who's been paying the closest attention to the news. The contestants this week, our friend, Judge Janine, co-host of Course of the Five, and Lawrence Jones, host of the new show, Cross Country. We could not be more honored. Thank you to you both.
Well, thanks you for having us.
And be nice.
Yeah, no, you be nice.
Be nice? No. I'm always nice. I am the impartial judge/talk show
no,
host.
No, but I'm the judge. No, I'm the judge. I'll decide who's nice.
I knew that.
Okay.
So you know the rules.
Yes.
You know the rules being a judge. Hands on buzzers. I ask the questions. The first person to buzz gets to answer. You must wait critically until I finish asking the question before you respond. You can answer once I acknowledge you by saying your name. Every correct answer gets you a point. Every wrong answer detracts a point from your total. The cruel math of Final Exam. Best of 5 wins. Are you ready?
What do we win?
Well, you win the adulation and the admiration of millions. And a T-shirt. I'm just hearing from Alex McCaskill. A trucker T-shirt.
Okay. Hit it.
Okay, it's good. All right, question 1. Now, this is a multiple choice. Actress Bette Midler.
I don't know it already.
She's still around. She recently attacked the people of West Virginia, all of them. She called them, quote, illiterate and strung out. Now, the state's governor, Jim Justice, was infuriated by this. He fired back at Midler and told her to do what? Was it A, drop dead, B, kiss his dog's butt, or C, jump in a lake?
Oh no!
Jones, ladies and gentlemen. What was it?
B.
Kiss his dog's butt. Okay, were you right? Let's roll the tape.
They told every bad joke in the world about us. And so from that standpoint, Baby Dog tells Bette Midler and all those out there, kiss her honey.
I
For an extra point, what was the dog's name?
I did know that.
You gotta be fast.
I hit it. You hit it. Did he hit it after or before you finished?
He did. You know, look, I'm staying out of this, but our panel of judges, who are overseen by another panel of judges looking down to keep them honest, says that he hit it first. But look, I'm not part of this.
Okay.
On to question 2.
Okay.
Now, if you listen to NPR, you know that NPR has become hallucinogenically absurd recently, and we play some of those segments on our show.
Yes.
Which one of the following 2 reports was an actual topic covered by National Public Radio in the last week? Was it A, the race of the yellow-skinned emoji, or B, the history of wheelchair softball in Nepal?
Did you hit
the race of the yellow-skinned emoji. Someone's got to hit it. Now, clearly you're not an NPR listener.
The second one, I can't read it.
The history of wheelchair basketball softball in Nepal.
Again.
I'm gonna go.
Lawrence Jones,
I'm
go for it.
gonna do A.
A, Roll tape, please.
Laura Johnson from Austin, Texas, says she used to think the yellow emoji was neutral, but then she started reading a book that made her rethink that view.
In particular, Ijeoma Oluo and her fabulous book, So You Want to Talk About Race, she made me realize that our culture tends to default to whiteness, and that yellow emoji is white.
Now, Judge,
Lawrence Jones, clearly a loyal NPR.
I let you go, Judge, and you didn't.
Because I didn't know the answer. Neither did you. You guessed.
And I got it right.
Yeah.
Because you know why, Judge? Because your spirit is so clean, it is totally unsullied by NPR. It's exactly right. You can't even imagine what's on their air.
I just know everything with NPR is about race, so that was easy.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was my guess. Such a good point.
That is
so
a very good point.
All right, on to question 3. This is another multiple choice, and the judges say it's worth 2 points. At his weekend rally, Donald Trump called on Joe Biden to take a cognitive test. As you might remember, former President Trump was on our show in 2020 talking about his own cognitive test, and he told us he was told to memorize a list of 5 words. The first 3 words were, you'll recall, person, woman, man. What were the final 2? There were A, desk and chair, B, camera and TV, or C, dog and cat.
Ooh.
Bam, Janine.
Okay, Judge.
What
Camera, not desk and chair.
Desk and chair. A is her choice from Judge Janine Pirro.
I don't think you're right, Judge. I don't.
Roll tape, please.
10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, they say, remember the first question? Not the first, but the 10th question? Give us that again. Can you do that again? And you go person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually
Camera,
not that
TV.
easy, but for me it was
You should
easy.
have stuck with your first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we're not. By the way,
I'm
and
really losing. Can I lose that?
No,
Can
that's
I leave
negative
now?
This is not a cognitive test, by the way. I got it wrong too, so we're in the same boat.
Okay.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, but he's winning. I can't.
VSS forgetfulness.
Okay.
You know what? People have pulled it out on question 4, so here it is. Now this is not multiple choice. There's only one guess allowed. Here it is. Roll teleprompter, please, so I know what it is. Okay. A massive brawl involving 40 people broke out at a Pennsylvania buffet. Police say it was because people were fighting over the steak, which is obviously worth fighting over. In which establishment did this fight occur?
Ooh.
And it's not Il Molino Uptown.
No, it's. Do you know?
I have no clue.
Go for it, Janine.
My thing didn't work. See, the whole thing should be invalidated. I hit it and it
Are
didn't
you saying
work.
it's rigged? Okay, it's your turn.
There you go.
It's.
What do you think
I
it
don't
is?
think it's Applebee's, but I'm going to say Applebee's.
You're going to say Applebee's. Was it Applebee's?
No.
Roll tape, please.
So he got 2 and I'm -2?
You're negative
I think actually you're -3. According to the judges, I'm not a math guy. -3. They're confirming that. But by the way, you can also win in the other direction. To come in with the fewest points on history, you know, could be its own kind of
The fewest
reward. But
points
okay,
in history.
this is the
That's
final
not good,
question. This is a multiple choice.
Another
It's
embarrassment. Go ahead.
It's also not embarrassment. It's also worth 2 points. Okay, here it is. People have talked for quite some time now that Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada to our north, is actually the son of a famous dictator. And frankly, it appears to be true. Is that famous dictator A, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, B, Fidel Castro of Cuba, or C, Chairman Mao of China? Lawrence Jones.
Let's go with A.
A. Hey, by the way, I think that's a better guess. I'm not sure it's correct, but we'll find out. Roll tape.
That's Margaret Trudeau, and I can't figure out if she's smiling more at her child or
I was going to say
Well, I think that the chemistry between both Trudeaus with Fidel was very, very good. And in the first book, which I remember reading, she said that Fidel was the sexiest man she'd ever met, and she spent the whole time flirting with him.
A thought she absolutely repeated when asked.
Oh, what a charmer. And you know why he's in power.
Ugh.
Did Margaret Trudeau bear the love child of Fidel Castro, and does he now run Canada? And of course, the answer is for sure.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Well, look,
I
I'm
knew
not.
it was Castro.
Hey, but why am I at 0? Why am I at 0?
Well, it doesn't
But
matter.
it's a
We
relative
both
measure.
lost.
So you may be at 0, but The judge is a little lower than that. So you are the victor by default, but you're both winners in our view.
-1. You won.
I beat you.
And Lawrence, your prize is a pro-trucker, anti-Trudeau / anti-Castro T-shirt.
My dad is a trucker, and I endorse.
Can I have a trucker? Can I have a T-shirt too?
You know what? Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Even though you didn't win, you still win on this show.
No participation trophies.
No.
You may have heard of Airbnb. It's an online service that exists to connect property owners with people who want to rent short-term, usually people traveling on vacation or for business. So Airbnb has a very straightforward mission, or it did. But then around the time that Donald Trump took office, Airbnb decided to become an aggressive agent of authoritarian social change. So its first step, of course, was to address, quote, bias and discrimination in its own operations. And to do that, it followed the guidance of, believe it or not, Al Sharpton's National Action Network, because they're the guys to go to make things just and learn not to pay your taxes. Then 3 years later, they accelerated it, and Airbnb began banning conservatives from spending the night in its properties. Now, they didn't say this out loud. They referred to people it disagreed with as, quote, white nationalists, because that's the script they always read. Then, after January 6th, they amped it up still more. Airbnb announced that, quote, domestic terrorist and violent hate group members are also banned. So you got to ask, since none of these terms are ever defined, who are these white nationalist terror leaders that Airbnb is banning from spending the night? Let's put a face on this. One of them is longtime conservative columnist Michelle Malkin, who, for the record, is not white. Kind of hard to be a white nationalist if you're not white, but that's what they're saying she is. She learned this when Malkin and her family tried to rent an Airbnb for a family trip, and they were denied. The explanation they received, quote, Airbnb's community policies prohibit people who are members of or actively associate with known hate groups. Then Airbnb decided to send this notice to Michelle Malkin's husband, who had literally done nothing. Quote, because we can see that she often travels with you via bookings made through your account, per our policies, we will need to remove your account from Airbnb as well. So they're punishing the family. You've got to wondering if the kids are next, just as in North Korea. Why wouldn't they be next? So now you're thinking, well, what exactly did Michelle Malkin do wrong? What did her family do wrong? Well, they didn't actually do anything wrong. They didn't hurt anyone. They didn't break any law. They didn't commit any act of terrorism, obviously. Instead, Airbnb told Malkin she was banned because she once spoke at a conference hosted by a group that the utterly fraudulent and thoroughly corrupt Southern Poverty Law Center doesn't like. They didn't cite anything she said. It was people she was in the same room with. It was guilt by association. But the big point is this. The amoral liars at the Southern Poverty Law Center get to decide where your family stays, whether you can spend the night, whether you have housing or not. That's the Chinese standard. Are you comfortable with that? Is this the kind of country you want to live in? The media have no problem with it. Nobody in Congress has said a word about it. Michelle Malkin is fighting this on her own. Whether you agree with Michelle Malkin or not is irrelevant. You ought to be fervently hoping she wins. So truckers, thank God, are continuing their protest on behalf of freedom in Ottawa, Canada tonight. That's the capital of Canada. They're demonstrating against COVID restrictions, vaccine mandates, among other things. The Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, remains in hiding, apparently. He fled in the face of Truckistan. We're not exactly sure where he is tonight. The question for us, however, could there be an American version of this trucker convoy for freedom? Well, apparently, truckers in the United States are planning a convoy to Washington, D.C. A Facebook group called Convoy to D.C. 2022 gained more than 130,000 members in recent days. Now, that's effective community organizing, the kind we're told is good. It's an exercise of democracy. So, of course, Facebook had to shut it down immediately because it's a threat to the powers that be. They banned the group from Facebook. Brian Brace is co-organizer of Convoy to D.C. 2022, and he joins us now. Brian, thanks so much for coming on. So what did you do? So you're trying to organize people to express their constitutionally protected opinions to challenge the government's views on something, not by force, but through words. And Facebook is preventing you from doing that. On what grounds? Do you know?
Well, they made the excuse that it was based on a violation of policies around their QAnon standards or something into that, nature. But the thing was about it was that it was there was none of that. None of us are associated with any of that. There was none of that posted on the Facebook. They won't prove that that's what it was. They won't show us what it was. And they wiped out 2 of the administrators' Facebook profiles altogether. I mean, they can't even make a profile. They're completely banned, even though there was nothing on their personal pages of that, that comes anywhere close to that. We have been advocating for being very center. It's not a right issue. It's not a left issue. This is an American issue. This is a human issue. This is something we are standing up to the mandates as a constitutional violation. Okay,
right.
These mandates are violate our constitutional rights, and we understand that truckers aren't, in the United States anyways, are not under this mandate, but healthcare workers are, teachers are, law enforcement, military. Those are our heroes, along with what I believe truck drivers are our heroes during this pandemic. Right. And so we felt it necessary to stand up, and so did Canada, and they motivated us to take action and to stand up here in the United States. It's not just our constitutional rights, it's our rights as a human being. On a global scale, this is a major violation of our human rights, or some would call our God-given rights.
That's exactly right. And that applies to primarily, I would say, to the right to believe whatever you want. I'm not even sure what QAnon is 2 years in. But I know that you're allowed to believe it under the U.S. Constitution. You can believe whatever you want under the U.S. So criminalizing belief is totalitarian, is it not?
Oh, it absolutely is. And the funny thing about it is, people want to spin this that if you're anti-vax, you're an evil human being, or to say patriot is like a taboo word these days for some reason. I have no idea why. I don't get it. I can't even understand it. But in what many of our opinions are now is that, the anti-vax crowd, or we'll say anybody that doesn't want to be mandated to be vaccinated, we'll say that. Right. It's not anti-vax. If you want to get the vaccination, get it. If you don't. But the people that aren't or don't want to get vaccinated should almost be under the protected classes category now. Some of the civil rights stuff, work for disabilities, the acts that have allowed or have stopped employers from being able to fire you because you got heavy in weight, or because you're a female, we can't hire you. Some of those things that protect those classes, protected classes as we call them, at this point, especially with the way things are going, I think it should be looked at that the unvaccinated are classified as a protected class.
Yeah, well, I think kulaks have no protection by definition. So, but we're certainly supporting your constitutional right to peacefully assemble and petition your government verbally for change. I think you should be doing that, and we support it. Brian, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Thank you. So staff at CNN are having to adjust to a life without Jeff Zucker. The question is, who will replace Jeff Zucker? We have some news on that next. So you never thought that Canadians would fight back against anything. They're Canadians, of course. They're passive and polite. But the Canadian working class did finally fight back in the form of truck drivers, the people who keep the society running, against the totalitarianism of the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. So they converged on Ottawa, the capital. They raised more than $9 million on GoFundMe from sympathetic people around the world. And thank you if you sent money. This afternoon, however, under pressure from the Canadian government of Justin Trudeau, GoFundMe announced they were removing the truckers' fundraiser and withholding the money. That money is not going back to donors. Instead, rather than automatically refunding the cash, which GoFundMe could do, GoFundMe is going to give it to charities of their own choosing, which is totally immoral. Is it illegal? It should be, but they're doing it. Ezra Levant of Rebel News put it this way: what a windfall for Black Lives Matter, Greenpeace, and Planned Parenthood, which is what it is. Actually, what it is theft, and we hope Canadians fight back. They've started to. The website Give, Send, Go has said it's willing to host donations for the truckers going forward, in case you're interested. So for a long time, early in the Trump administration, media outlets in this country relentlessly promoted the political ambitions of a particularly creepy attorney from California. A show on CNN called Reliable Sources interviewed this attorney as a serious 2020 presidential contender. NBC News entertained the man's claim that the Supreme Court nominee had engaged in a, quote, gang rape train back in college. This lawyer could not resist a single media appearance. He was an addict. So in late 2018, he came to our show. At the time, he was representing Stormy Daniels, a pornography star, in her lawsuit against the then President Donald Trump. We pointed out the obvious. The creepy porn lawyer was not working for Stormy Daniels. He was working for himself. He's trying to make himself more famous so he could run for president. Here's part of the conversation. Why are you rich and your client is working in seedy strip clubs?
Sir, do you have any idea how much money I've earned?
You're on every cable show. You're running for president now.
You have no idea.
Well, I know that you haven't paid your taxes because you've got over $1 million worth of
ridiculous. You don't even know your facts.
It's not true.
You don't even know your
$1 million
your facts, Tucker.
Look, I'm just saying,
Tucker,
why is she still?
How do you have a show and you're this ignorant? How is that
Here's
possible?
what I know for a fact is that your client is not thriving. And for you to look at me in the eye and say she wants to perform in strip clubs with people throwing stuff at her is insulting to her. People don't do that unless they have no choice, or she just likes it. Is that what you're saying?
Tucker, now you're the defender of my client. You don't know anything about
pathetic. You're exploiting
You don't even
her.
know.
Not for us to judge. It's for a federal grand jury in New York to judge, and today that federal grand jury convicted the creepy porn lawyer of wire fraud and aggravated identity theft for stealing more than $300,000 from, yes, Stormy Daniels, who was, yes, working in seedy strip bars. You hate to brag, but it was obvious at the time. Why are we telling you this? Not for purposes of self-aggrandizement, but just to make the point once again, they're lying to you, for sure. So the Biden administration has somehow nearly 1 billion records of lawful firearms purchases made by Americans. This is according to a new report by the Washington Free Beacon. Now, to be clear, a federal firearms registry is explicitly banned by law. The Congress has banned it. They're not allowed to keep any kind of registry like that. Now, they can check your credentials when you buy a gun. Hunter Biden lied on his form. That's a felony. They've done nothing about it. But they can't maintain a registry. Last year, Joe Biden explained his goal. Watch.
And so what happens is I've gotten ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. I have them increase their budget and increase their capacity, along with the Justice Department, to go after the gun shops that are not abiding by the law of doing background checks. But my point is all across the country. And it's not because the gun shops in the cities are selling these guns. They are either shadow gun dealers and or gun shops that are not abiding by the law. So we're going to do major investigations and shut those guys down and put some of them in jail for what they're doing, selling these weapons.
Yeah. Again, his son broke federal firearms law and they did nothing about it. They're letting people run around our cities with guns and not arresting them. They're trying to disarm people who didn't vote for them. I mean, it just couldn't be clearer at this point. J.D. Vance is a best-selling author. He's now running for Senate in the state of Ohio, and we're happy to have him join us tonight. J.D. Vance, thanks so much for coming on. So we've got record crime in our biggest cities, and that's Joe Biden's response.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tucker. So you think about it, this database is ultimately a backdoor to a gun registry in this country. And if you look at what liberals have done in Europe, at what they've done in Australia, once you allow a gun registry, you effectively allow the disarming of your citizenry. This is ultimately about destroying the Second Amendment, just as the Democrats' alliance with big tech is about destroying the First Amendment. And my basic argument here, Tucker, is look, if the Democrats are going to ignore the heavily armed drug cartels on our southern border, but use the ATF to go after law-abiding citizens, why don't we just get rid of the ATF?
Well, that is such a great point. I mean, there's a narco state right across the border from Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. I mean, the biggest narco state in the hemisphere, heavily armed. No one's doing anything about it at all, but they're mad because you've got a 12 gauge in your closet. I mean, why do we have an ATF?
Oh, it's a great question. And, you know, I'm running in the Senate against this fraud of a Democrat, Tim Ryan. And you look at this guy, he portrays himself as a working class Democrat, but at the end of the day, he's gone along with the inflation policies that have destroyed the dollar. Yeah, he's gone along with the ship our jobs to China policies, which have destroyed the working class wages. And now he's going along with policies that destroy the Second Amendment in this country. At the end of the day, Democrats say they care about the little people. You should care about their values and you should care about their rights. I'm so sick of the Democrats saying they care when all they offer is a government check instead of a government that actually defends people's basic liberties.
That's exactly right. You'd think that a Democrat from the Mahoning Valley of Ohio could defend gun rights, but no, it's really changed. That party's changed. It's sad.